All right, guys, I am back again to do another video lesson. Okay, this video lesson is going to be about, in this particular case, we're going to be talking about dividing rational numbers. Okay, dividing rational numbers is something that's going to be central to you understanding what's going on in 7th grade curriculum math. Okay, so I want to start also by talking about some rules and some different things that you need to consider when you are dividing rational numbers. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I want to go ahead and label this though as 7.3a. This is a TEK that has to do with the quotients of rational numbers. Okay, now when we're dealing with the quotients of rational numbers, we need to remember, number one, the sign rules. And when I say sign rules, that is either your positive or your negative for division. And as we know, the answer to a division problem is going to be your quotient. Okay. We also are going to have to think about cross simplification. And that's if possible. And our rules about KCR, formerly known as KCF. That's keep, change your operator. That's either your division or multiplication sign. In this case, being that we're dividing, we're going to change it to a multiplication sign. And then instead of flip, we're going to use that proper math terminology of taking the reciprocal. Okay, so I want to divide this into 3 parts, my paper. Okay. The first problem, that we're going to deal with is negative 4 over 5 over negative 2 over 3. The next, I want to deal with a decimal that's negative 10.35 over negative 2.3. And then the third one that I want to deal with is my 5 over negative 2 over 8. All right, so first things first, we have negative 4 over 5 divided by negative 2 over 3, okay? So first things first, as I tell my students, I want you to go ahead and try, number one, to put this into a form which you recognize maybe a little bit more. This is called a complex fraction, where you have a fraction as the numerator and a fraction as the denominator. Both of these fractions are negative, as you see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into a form that I recognize. This is negative 4 over 5 divided by negative 2 over 3. Okay, now I'm going to put this in parentheses just because I want to pay special attention to the fact that there is a negative sign there, and I'm going to do that with the help of parentheses. Okay, so I have this fraction ready to go. I'm going to use this principle of keep, change, reciprocate. I have negative 4 over 5 multiplied by the reciprocal of negative 3 over 2. Now remember, when I multiply two negative numbers, that's going to result in a positive number, so I need to keep that in the back of my mind. In the meanwhile, I'm going to see, as it says up here, if I can cross simplify anything. Can I cross simplify anything between 5 and 3? Probably not. Okay, or I know that I can't because there are no common factors. However, between 4 and 2, are there common factors? The greatest common factor of 2 and 4, I'll give you a moment to think about it. Absolutely, the greatest common factor between 2 and 4 would be 2. 2 divided by 2 is going to be 1. 4 divided by 2 is going to be 2. I have cross-simplified. Now, what I'd like to do is I want to go ahead and multiply across. Okay, so if I multiply across, that is going to be negative 2 over 5 times negative 3 over 1. And again, I know that two negatives together, when I multiply them, is going to result in a positive. So I'm going to multiply across here. So 2 times 3 will give me 6 over 5. And notice what I've done is I've gotten rid of my two negative signs because of the fact when I multiply those together, they're going to give me a positive. Now, the only thing that I need to be concerned with at this point is to go ahead and put this into a mixed number. When I put it into a mixed number, what I want to do is I know that if I subtract 5/5, that's going to be 1 whole. So basically, I'm trying to figure out how many holes I can take out. So there's only 1 whole number, and that's 5 over 5, 5/5. So when I take that out, that leaves me with 1/5 left over. Okay, so 1 and 1/5. Now, moving on to my decimal. Okay, so when I move on to my decimals, that's going to give me negative 10.35 divided by negative 2.3. Okay, so I'm going to set this up. Again, my rules are at play in terms of dividing two negatives. I'm going to keep that in the back of my brain, but in the meanwhile, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work on dividing. Okay, now remember, this bar in any fraction is just a simple way of saying that I'm going to be dividing. So this number divided by that number. So I'm going to put this, as most of the kids know, the number at the top goes inside of the house. That's what they called it in elementary, and we're just trying to bridge that gap. And I'm going to put the number at the bottom, which is my divisor, outside. Now, the rules of dividing with a decimal as your divisor says that I'm going to move my decimal one place over, okay, or the number of places to get it to the end of this number. And I'm going to move this one over one time as well, and then I'm just going to go ahead and write this up here so my decimal point goes there. Okay, now through the magic of YouTube, what I'm going to do is I know that I cannot put 1 into 23 parts. I know that I can't do that, so there's going to be an imaginary zero placeholder there. Can I put 10 into 23 parts evenly? No. Magic invisible 0 placeholder there. However, can I put 103 into 23 equal parts? Absolutely I can. That'll be 4 times again through the magic of YouTube. I've already figured this out off screen. Now, I want to give you one major warning. If you are a kid watching this, there's no shortcuts. You do need to try to figure out how many times 23 can be put into, how many times 103 can be put into 23 parts. So off to the side, you should be saying 23 times 1, figure that out. 23 times 2, figure that out. By trial and error, you need to be doing that, okay? Because you won't have access to a calculator until 8th grade curriculum. So next, again, I know that that is going to equal to be 11. Can I put 11 into 23 parts? Absolutely, I cannot, okay? I'm going to drop my 5 down. So how many times can I put 115 into 23 parts? I know again that that's going to be 5 times. It's going to be an even number. Once I do my division and my subtraction, I know that this is going to be 0. The point of dividing is to get as close to this number 0 as possible. This has gone into this 4.5 times. Now again, because I was dividing two negatives, I know that this is now going to become positive. So that would be positive 4.5. And how do I check my work? I would simply multiply 4.5 times 2.3. It'll give me 10.35. Okay. Now, moving right along, I have a whole number as my numerator in this complex fraction, and I have another fraction, negative 2 over 8, as my denominator. So you might ask yourself, it has been a long time since I've been in school if you're a parent watching this. So how do I actually do this? I need to, again, put it into a format which I am more familiar with. I'm going to say that this is going to be equal to 5 divided by negative 2 over 8. For emphasis, I'm going to put a set of parentheses around it. Now, this is a little bit more familiar. I do want to also put this into another format because you're saying, how do I divide a whole number? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say 5 over 1. Any number over 1 is going to be that same number divided by negative 2 over 8. And I know, again, you're asking yourself, why are you writing it so many times? You're writing it so many times so that you keep things straight. Don't try to do 2 steps in one. Okay? So next, I'm going to use keep, change, reciprocate. That's 5 over 1. Change my operator to a multiplication sign. I'm then going to use the reciprocal of 2 over 8. Negative 2 over 8, I should say, and it'll be negative 8 over 2 at this point. I need to ask myself, are there any things that I can cross simplify? 8 and 1, any common factors besides 1? No. Any common factors besides 5 and 2? No. Okay? So again, I am going to multiply across. This becomes 5 times negative 8. The reason I said negative 8 is because when we have a negative sign out here, we can assume that it goes with the numerator. Okay? So that's going to be negative 40 over 1 times 2, which is 2, which is going to equate to, when I simplify negative 40 over 2, that's going to equate to what number? Negative 40 divided by 2. I have a negative number divided by a positive number. Those rules of working with quotients of rational numbers tells me that a negative divided by a positive is going to be a negative. This becomes negative 20. You guessed it. So, as always, this is only the first step. If you are having a hard time with this, please, by all means, replay this video. If you need to replay it 2 or 3 times, please do so. Don't worry about not being proficient right off the bat. You are fine if you replay this video. And as always, if you have questions, ask me in class. If you have questions, come to tutorials. Or you can just rewind this video as I've said. And as always, I'll see you in class.